morning, depending on where you're joining from. I'll be leading the session today, and our session today is pretty much straightforward and straight to the point. We had a session on Saturday where we talked about how to land, the skills and the experience required to land jobs, visa-sponsored jobs, land jobs in the US, Canada, across Europe, in the UK, and the things you need to take note of. But there were a couple of questions that came up, and I felt we need to address some of those questions, especially for those who are a little bit more confused. All right. So please feel free. If you know somebody that should be here today, they want to understand, there are certain programs, there are certain career paths that have been removed from the eligible occupations for the skilled worker visa, and they are now on the temporary shortage list. What does that mean? And how does it impact you? Okay, so we're going to talk about that today, and we'll be learning a lot of new things, I bet you. All right. So if you joined my session on Saturday and you are here as a follow-up, type in a 1 into the chat. Just type 1 into the chat so I know those that are returning for the second time. If you joined on Saturday, type in a 1. Fantastic. Daniel was here on Saturday. Eliazar, Jolly, brilliant. So we have some returnees, Chidi, Wambuli, fantastic. Okay, so like I said, we'll keep the session interactive. It's going to be a short session, maximum of 1 hour. Okay, so pen all your questions down. If you have questions, we'd have enough time to answer those questions. So let's dive into the main meat of our session today. All right. So many changes. On the 22nd of July last month, some changes came into effect, but nothing really changed in terms of what it takes for you to land a job or what the UK have always been asking for, which is high-skilled employees, high-skilled immigrants that contribute to the economy, grow the economy, come with creativity, innovation, and so on and so forth. And we're going to demystify a couple of myths that, has been circling around from different quarters. But first of all, for us at Tenalytics, we are the leading educational technology company focused on helping professionals land jobs within the tech ecosystem, high-paying jobs, moving from a non-technical background to landing a job within the technology ecosystem. So you could have worked as a care worker, as a support worker, as a nurse, as a warehouse operative, as a logistics professional, accountant, but transition to becoming a data analyst, a business analyst, a cybersecurity professional, and so on. And over the last 4 years, going into the 5th year this month, we've helped over 3,000 plus people to make that transition from the classroom to landing their very first jobs within the tech ecosystem. And this cuts across multiple regions from the US to the UK, across Europe, Africa, Asia, and you name it. All right. And the programs we offer a high demand career path that cuts across the tech ecosystem, most especially within the areas of data science, data analytics, cybersecurity, agile project management, and so on and so forth. And I'll be leading the session today. My name is Adeza Suleiman. I'm a technology expert with over a decade experience cutting across data analytics, management consulting, data engineering. And as the founder of Tenalytics and co-founder of Amdari, we've been able to help over 3,000 and counting to make that same transition from a non-technology background to moving into the tech ecosystem. For me, myself, personally, my first degree was in industrial chemistry, nothing related to tech, nothing related to computer science, but I made the switch about 12 years ago. So how can you also do the same? And over a decade of my experience within different sectors, I've worked as a data science consultant for companies in Canada. I live and work in Canada. Worked in the UK, worked for companies in the US. I've worked as a data analytics consultant, as a data analyst for one of the largest privately owned energy conglomerates in sub-Saharan Africa. And I've worked as a data analyst data analytics consultant for FITC, owned by the Bankers Committee and the Central Bank of Nigeria. And my experience spans across multiple sectors, from financial services, where I started my career, up to automobile, and so on, across educational technology, energy, and so you have it. Now, cutting across multiple sectors would play a big role in the session we have today. All right, because how does a data analyst in financial services move to the energy sector? What do you call that data analyst that moves from financial services to energy? All right. So I want you to just think about that and put that at the back of your mind, and we'll come back to visit that particular question. How does a data analyst in financial services get into the energy sector and still work as a data analyst, and get into automobile and still work as a data analyst? All right. So let's dive into some of the new changes that came into effect on the 22nd of July last month. And number one is the elevated skills threshold. Now, prior to July 22nd, 2025, there was no specific, you didn't need to meet RQF level 6. And what is RQF level 6? It's the Regulated Qualifications Framework. Regulated Qualifications Framework. And level 6 simply means job roles that have the complexity to be done by somebody who has a bachelor's degree. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to have studied that particular career path in the university. No, that's not what it means. It simply means that this is a job role of the complexity that can be done by somebody with a bachelor's degree. All right. So prior to July 22nd, last month, you didn't need to have the complexity, a role with the complexity of somebody who had a bachelor's or has a bachelor's to get visa sponsorship. But now the UK is simply saying, for you to qualify for the skilled worker visa, you must meet RQF level 6. And they have recategorized the career path into higher skilled, medium skilled, and ineligible. And we're going to look at that. So higher skilled simply means RQF level 6 and above. So when we get into the website and you see higher skilled, it simply means it's RQF level 6 and above. It meets all the requirements for sponsorship. Okay, so that's the first change that's happened. So prior to now, for somebody who got a job as a chef, you could qualify for a skilled worker visa, because you don't need, being a chef is not categorized as the complexity level of somebody who has a bachelor's degree. Okay, prior to these new changes, if you got a job as a support worker, as a care worker, you could qualify for sponsorship. But today, the UK is simply saying that's not up to the level of RQF level 6, so you no longer qualify. All right, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more. Now, the second major change is a new temporary shortage list. Now, the temporary shortage list allows for certain career paths that used to be eligible for the skilled worker visa, but because they've now been recategorized, they are no longer eligible. But because they are also in high demand, okay, they are in high demand, they also would fall under a list called the temporary shortage list. So they still qualify for sponsorship, but with some limitations. All right. So when the new categorizations, RQF level 6 and above qualifies for the skilled worker visa. Some roles, about over 100 occupations, fell below RQF level 6 after the recategorization. And some of those roles were now put under something called the temporary shortage list. So what it simply means is, even though these roles don't qualify under RQF level 6, maybe from 5 and below, they are still in high demand. They are still required within the UK economy. So we can't scrap them. Okay, they'll still remain eligible for sponsorship. However, they would come with some limitations. Okay, then you have the third part, which is salary thresholds, which of course the standard for standard roles, it used to be 38,700, but now it's 41,700. And what that simply means is for you to land a job today that qualifies for the skilled worker visa, which means you get a certificate of sponsorship from a company that can sponsor, your job offer must have a minimum of 41,700 per annum, an increase from 38,700. Okay. So if you have any job offer with your annual salary above 41,700, then you are good, or right on the dot of 41,700. But anything below would not qualify for the skilled worker visa. All right. Then number 4, you have the closure of the adult social care recruitment, which simply means care workers, especially from outside the UK, can no longer apply for the skilled worker visa under the health and care visa, social care, support workers, and so on and so forth. Okay, and of course, there are so many other changes that are likely going to come. They are currently still they are proposed and undergoing consultations, but not yet implemented. For example, an English language standard where you must meet a specific English language requirement for you to also qualify. Extension of the settlement period. Now, if you had a skilled worker visa before 22nd of July, then you're on a 5-year pathway to ILR. Okay, which means you get permanent residency, ILR, indefinite leave to remain after 5 years. But there are considerations to extend it to 10 years instead of 5. So usually when you're on your skilled worker visa for 5 years, after 5 years, you get your ILR, indefinite leave to remain. And 1 year after, you can then apply for citizenship. All right. But some of the changes in the white paper, which has not been approved and implemented yet, wants to extend the 5 years to 10 years, which means for you to get ILR, you have to be on a pathway to 10 years to get ILR. Okay. Then you also have a proposal within the white paper to also reduce the post-study visa. So if you had gone to the UK for your master's, for example, and you complete your master's, you are eligible for a 2-year post-study visa. All right. But now the white paper is proposing that that'll be reduced to 1.5 years, no longer 2 years. But I mean, all these additional proposals have not been implemented yet. But number 1 to number 4 on the 22nd of July came into effect. Okay. Now, the questions we got on Saturday centered around data analytics. As a data analyst, I can no longer get sponsorship. Or as a data analyst, even though I get a job, I meet all the salary requirements, I meet the threshold and so on, I am no longer eligible for sponsorship. Is that true? It's a big no. You are still eligible, and we're going to dissect that together, all right, on this call. Okay. So when you look at the eligible occupations for the skilled worker visa prior to 22nd of July, all these career paths fell under RQF level 6, which meant you get an offer from a company that has the license to sponsor, you get a certificate of sponsorship from them, you apply, and you get your skilled worker visa. Okay, so that was pretty much straightforward. RQF level 6 and above. And like I said earlier, these are the higher skilled roles that meet all the requirements, the core requirements for the skilled worker visa. Now, after the recategorization, data analytics was categorized as RQF level 6, which means it falls under the complexity of somebody who has a post-secondary diploma. Okay, and what does that mean? It simply means the complexity of the job of the data analyst falls within, maybe I've gone to university, for example, a bachelor's, and I didn't complete, or I couldn't complete my bachelor's. Rather than doing 4 years, I did 3 years. I'd get a diploma, right? So that's RQF level 5. So they are saying for somebody who has a diploma, the data analyst role is categorized under that complexity. So you won't find it under the eligible occupations for the skilled worker visa. However, it is under the temporary shortage list. But does that mean that if I know all the skills as a data analyst, I recently just completed a program in data analytics, or I'm about to start, can I get sponsorship with no limitations, no conditions? The answer is also yes. And I'll show you how and exactly what you can do in that regard. Okay. So you have access to the eligible occupations right here. I've kept all the links here. We're going to use them together, would go to these websites together and so on. But if you click on this, for example, it takes you to the skilled worker visa eligible occupations and codes. Okay, we're going to come back to this. All right, and you can see it was updated on the 22nd of July, 2025. Now, if you scroll down to data analyst 3544, 3544, you'd see it categorized as what? Medium skilled. So unlike the way you had categorizations of yes, no, if they're qualified for the skilled worker visa, now you have higher skilled, you have medium skilled, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now that we know this, or we've seen, this falls under the medium skilled, the big question, like I've asked right from the beginning of our session today, is can you still get sponsorship as a data analyst? And the answer is what? Yes. And there are two things you can consider. The first one has no limitation whatsoever, zero limitations. So there is no limitation of you cannot bring your dependents, or you don't have a pathway to ILR and all of those things, zero limitations. And that's the option of the job role breadth, the breadth of the data analyst. Okay. The breadth of the data analyst. And we're going to talk about that in the next couple of slides. And the second comes with limitations, which is the temporary shortage list. All right. My focus today would be around the different roles you can apply to as a data analyst. All right. And I'm going to ask this question and I want you to type into the chat. Okay. Let's take a hypothetical, no, not a hypothetical. Let's just take one job role, for example. Okay. Let's take one job role. And let's say you just recently studied human resources in the university, or you recently just completed a human resources training. Okay. What type of jobs can you get in the workplace if you study human resources? Just type into the chat. Think wide, think far. What type of jobs do you think you can get if you studied human resources? Just type into the chat. No, I said human resources. It's a deliberate question, Ismelda. HR manager, thank you, Blessing. HR manager, recruiter, fantastic. A Zoom user said recruiter. Okay. HR officer, brilliant. Okay. HR trainer, Blessing, thanks for that. HR analyst, of course. And there are so many other roles. And you can simply just Google or chat GPT. Okay. You can get a job as a compensation analyst, as a payroll personnel. Fantastic. Oluwaseun Fumi. Payroll, employee relations, Rachel, brilliant. Payroll administrator, fantastic. Compensation and benefits, performance analyst, reward analyst, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, what does that tell you? It simply tells you that because you studied human resources does not mean that the only type of job you get is as a human resource officer or as a HR officer. There are so many roles within the HR ecosystem: compensation and benefit analyst, total rewards analyst, benefit analyst. payroll administrator, and so on and so forth. The same thing applies to the data analytics ecosystem. Okay, now let's dive into the job breadth. And of course, those are the different type of roles under HR that you can apply to. So the same question goes to data analytics. If I learn data analytics skills, or I studied data analytics and I have the skills of a data analyst, does that mean I can only get a job as a data analyst? No. Just like the HR professional that can get a job in recruitment as a recruiter, can get a job as an employee relations officer, as an employee engagement officer, as a compensation and benefits analyst, and so on. The data analyst can also apply to multiple roles. And some of them includes business intelligence analyst, the BI analyst role, the information analyst role, commercial analyst, BI developer, reporting analyst, Power BI developer, dashboard and reporting analyst, database analyst, web analyst, supply chain analyst, and the list goes on and on and on. And the best way for you to check is just ask ChatGPT. Type into ChatGPT, give me an exhaustive list of the type of jobs that I can apply to as a data analyst. Okay, give me an exhaustive list of the type of jobs I can apply to as a data analyst, and you get numerous roles. So if you've completed data analytics, you've learned to become a data analyst, you've learned the tools and the technologies, you can easily apply to these 10 roles. And I made it 10 deliberately. There are so many more, but you see these 10 roles, even though they are under the same data analytics that has been removed and placed on the temporary shortage list. All these 10 roles qualify as RQF level 6, higher skilled, and meets all the core requirements for the skilled worker visa. All of them, all the 10 of them. And we're going to check them together one after the other. Okay, maybe not all the 10, but we'll check a couple. I'll show you how to do it so you can go back after this session and you can do it on your own. All right, but make sure you fill the attendance so that you have all the materials I'll be sharing with you today. The slides, the links, and every other material, the recording of today's session, you also get access. Okay, so all these roles, they all fall under data analytics, just like compensation and benefits falls under HR. Recruitment analyst falls under HR. Okay. Payrolls, Blessing said payroll administrator. Payroll administrator also falls under where? HR. The same way, all these roles I've listed falls under what? Data analytics. As a BI analyst, business intelligence analyst, you are a data analyst. As an information analyst, you're a data analyst. As a commercial analyst, you're a data analyst. And I'd also show you people that have gotten jobs across some of these job titles. They completed our data analytics program and they got jobs as information analysts, as BI analysts, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, what you'd start to see in the future, and this is, so all the things I'm saying is not immigration advice. This is based on research, based on what has happened, and I'll be sharing that with you, okay, for your own knowledge. And so you can go back and carry out your own research and understand exactly the pathway for you to take. Okay. Now, organizations would start to tailor their job roles internally to ensure that it qualifies for sponsorship. I'll show you a lady who got a job as an information analyst with the NHS. Okay. The role is a data analyst role. You're going to use Excel to analyze data. You'd get data from that particular NHS trust. You'd analyze, visualize the data, come up with recommendations, and share your insights with the management. But the job title was not data analyst. It was information analyst. Okay. So what you'd start to see, you'd see organizations tailoring the job roles to fit into the new requirements for the skilled worker visa. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, which is even more important, is you the person trying to get that sponsorship, you would have to start to tailor your job search. Okay, so you're not just applying and searching for roles as a data analyst. You're applying to so many other roles across board, just like I've listed, and there's so many more. But how do you check that a role qualifies under one of the eligible occupations for the skilled worker visa? And that's where we're going to use the UK Cascot Occupation Coding tool. Okay, so if you get a job and your job has a specific job title, you can check, is this categorized as one of the eligible occupations under the skilled worker visa? Yes or no? You can check within a few seconds, and we're going to do that shortly. All right. But before I dive into the Cascot website and we look at that and check if the business intelligence analyst, for example, is it eligible without any limitation? The information analyst, is he eligible without limitation? The commercial analyst, the BI developer, are these roles eligible without limitations? Are they categorized as higher skilled under the RQF level 6? We're going to check that now in the subsequent slide. But before I go there, I want to ask, do we understand all of this? Are we clear on everything I've said so far? Okay, are we clear on everything we've discussed so far? Brilliant. Okay, it becomes clearer by the time we get into the website and we look at it one after the other. Somebody's asking, is cybersecurity one of them? Absolutely. Okay, so before we start looking at these roles individually, I'm going to show you how to check each career path and see if they're eligible or not. So when you click the link in the previous slide, this one, when you click this link, okay, it opens up the eligible occupations for the skilled worker visa. All right. And I'll show you where, which we clicked on that earlier, and it took us here. Okay. It took us to the eligible occupations for the skilled worker visa, the most updated on the 22nd of July. Now, if you scroll down a little bit, you'd see the Cascot Occupation Coding tool. I've also kept the link on my slide. All right. So make sure if you fill the attendance, you get access to all of that. Okay. So if you click on this, for example, or let me right click and I get right to the Cascot web. So what this does is it shows you to a certain level of, to a certain degree of certainty that this job role falls under this particular job code. So you can go back to the eligible occupations to check, does this job role fall under higher skilled or medium skilled? And let's check one that somebody asked, okay? So let's check for the business analyst. Okay, so I get a job, for example, I just completed business analysis with Tenalytics. So I just registered for the business analysis program. Am I eligible for sponsorship? Can I get sponsorship if that is what I'm looking for? Okay, so once you type the job role, you click on what? Code. The moment you click on code, you'd see, the codes, the job titles, and all of that. Okay, so this says 2431, all right, which is the business analyst and consultant. All right, so it is categorizing and telling you that the best matching index is the code 2431. That's the best matching index, 2431. All right. Now, if you go to 2431, back in the skilled worker, eligible occupations, you go to 2431. 2431, okay, you'd see the management consultant and business analyst. Is it higher skilled, medium skilled, or ineligible? It is higher skilled. So if I get a job as a business analyst, am I qualified? Yes, I am. Okay, if you also look at the code, the next one that was categorized is 2133. Okay, 2133. If you also check 2133, let's go there. 2133. So you can do this yourself. So I'm showing you what to do, how to check. All right. So 2133, you have the IT business analyst. And you can check for the different roles within that particular job title or the different job titles within that particular job role. And you'd see the IT business analyst, the data architect, IT business analyst. Is he higher skilled, medium skilled, or ineligible? It is higher skilled. So whenever you see higher skilled, it means RQF level 6 and above, and it meets all the core requirements for the skilled worker visa. And you can do that across different other roles. You can check for the financial analyst, you can check for the data scientist. You get a job as a data scientist, for example, or you join the data science program with Tenalytics. Does it qualify? All right. So this is categorized under 2433. Okay, 2433. So you go to 2433, scroll all the way down, and you'd see the actuaries, economists, and statisticians. And you'd find statistical data scientists. So if you get a job as a data scientist, for example, with a company that has the license to sponsor, you get a COS, you meet all the requirements in terms of the skills requirement to get the skilled worker visa for that particular job. And you can test for the other. Somebody asked about cyber security. Okay, cyber security, you'd see you have 2135. Okay, 2135, 2135. So let's go to 2135 and see. So you have cybersecurity professionals. You can see that clearly indicated. Okay. So under cybersecurity, you have so many other specializations. You have GRC, you have the penetration testers, you have the SOC analysts, and so on. Okay. Does it fall under what category does it fall under? Higher skilled. All right. You can check for the financial analysts and so on and so forth. Okay. Financial analysts. 2422. Okay, and 2431. So you see this score right here. This score shows you the degree of certainty. All right, so the higher the score, the better. All right, so if you see multiple categorizations, always go for the first one or the one with the highest score. So 2422, if I go to 2422, for example, 2422, you'd see the finance, investment analysts, and advisors. Okay. So if you get a job as a financial analyst, it is higher skilled. So that's the easiest way for you to check. All right. Easiest way for you to check using the tool that has been provided by the same people that did the categorization. All right. Which is the Cascot occupation coding tool. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to check for the different roles under data analytics. And we're going to start with the business intelligence analyst. And I deliberately highlighted this as number one because for anybody who has data analytics skills, you don't need anything extra to apply to get a job as a business intelligence analyst. It's one of the straight and the most straightforward pathway for you to get into that particular career path. Same with information analyst, commercial analyst, and so on. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to check. Let me see. What job can I get with RQF level 5? So you have to check that, okay? So still the skilled worker occupation, the eligible occupations, check for the roles under social care. I'm sure you'd find a couple of them here, but the roles you might find may be more managerial compared to what you'd have gotten sponsorship for, initially. All right. So now let's check for the business intelligence analyst. So I've completed data analytics and I apply and I get a job as a business intelligence analyst. Business intelligence analyst. That's a BI analyst, very popular role, BI analyst, and you click on code, okay? And it shows you what? 2431. So you have multiple categorizations, but the highest is 84%, which is quite high. 2431, that's the role or the title categorized under, or which business intelligence is categorized under. All right. So 2431, let's go back and let's check the code 2431. and you'd see where you have it's categorized under this code: management, consultants, business analysts, and so on. Is it higher skilled? Yes. Okay. You also have 2434. Okay. The categorization is a bit lower than the first one. So you usually pick the one with the highest score because that's the closest to what that categorization would be. The same way the home office would look at the job role. That's what you are getting right here. But even though you look at 2434, let's check and see. 2434. Okay, you'd see the intelligence analyst, the business intelligence analyst. So these are business and related research professionals. Is it higher skilled, medium skilled, or lower or ineligible? It is higher skilled. So guess what? I have still learned data analytics, but this time around, my focus is not just on applying to data analyst roles. I'm applying to a BI role, a business intelligence analyst role. And what's the difference? I'm going to explain the difference to you. But what I'm telling you for certain is everything you would learn in data, in fact, you would learn more tools, how to use more tools and more technologies compared to the business intelligence analyst. The BI analyst role is a subset of data analytics. Okay, now let's go to the second one on the list, which is information analyst. All right, and I'll show you somebody who got a job as an information analyst. She got sponsorship with the NHS as an information analyst. And what she did, the program she completed was data analytics. Okay, so let's go back to the coding tool. And this time around, I would enter information analyst. Okay, so information analyst, you'd see the categorization 2434. 2434. Okay, so let's go back to the skilled worker 2434. So the same as the BI analyst. So if you get a job offer and the job title is information analyst, you are categorized under the code 2434, business and related research professionals, intelligence analyst, research in media and entertainment, business and related research professionals. It is higher skilled, RQF level 6 and above, and so on and so forth. If you type in Power BI developer, you type in database analyst, and let's type in the Power BI developer. Okay, the Power BI developer categorized under 2134. And as a Power BI developer, you are simply a data analyst that focuses on Power BI and advanced use of Power BI. That's pretty much it. So you're automating, you're writing the M language in your Power Query, you're writing advanced DAX expressions, and so on and so forth. That's what the Power BI developer does. The co-founder of Tenalytics, Efemena, who used to work in the warehouse for DPD, a role became available within the same DPD where he worked as a warehouse operative. And the job title was BI developer, the Power BI developer, and he got that job. And he had only studied as a data analyst. Okay, so 2134, if we go back to 2134, 2134, okay, programmers, software development professionals, and so on. And that is categorized under what? Higher skilled. Okay, so this is the best way and the easiest way for you to check. You can check for the database analyst, the reporting analyst, the dashboard and reporting analyst, supply chain analyst, and so on and so forth. So the idea that because I've completed data analytics, I cannot get sponsorship, it goes out of the window. So the only thing you now need to do is what? Tailoring your job search and your job applications. Simple and short. So I'll be looking for roles as a BI analyst, information analyst, commercial analyst, BI developer, and there are so many more. All right. And I've shown you how to check. Go to the Cascot tool, search for the role, look for the closest, the highest categorization for that particular job role, go back to the list of eligible occupations and check for that categorization. Is it higher skilled? Is it lower? Is it medium skilled or ineligible? Those are the three categorizations that currently exist. And this amazing lady right here, Ikmat, for those of you that have joined our sessions from time to time, you would have seen Ikmat and heard about Ikmat's story. Ikmat was a stay-at-home mom. She had not worked in a very long time. She was taking care of her kids for 2 years. All right. She moved to the UK. She wanted to get back into the job market. She joined our data analytics program and she wanted more. She wanted sponsorship. She wanted to land a job. She's been out of work. She was out of work for a while. She joined our data analytics program. And even before she completed our program, she got multiple offers. She wanted the one with sponsorship and she landed a job with the NHS last year, January 2024, but not as a data analyst, even though she completed data analytics, but she got a job as what? As an information analyst. As an information analyst. And we're going to go to Ikmat's profile very quickly. Check out Ikmat. And like I mentioned earlier, the best way for you to check for some of these roles, the best way for you to get opportunities is to ensure that you target the roles you're applying to, and it's not just a plain vanilla application, data analyst, data analyst, data analyst. No, you want to look for those roles that are categorized under the RQF level 6. But let's search for Ikmat very quickly. So that's Ikmat right there. Absolutely phenomenal lady. She works. One of the first things you'd see is you both worked at Tenalytics, all right? And if you scroll down to her experience, she works with the Sussex Community NHS Foundation Trust, not as a data analyst, but what? As an information analyst, okay? And prior to that, you'd see her job role, the program she completed with Tenalytics, data analyst. Okay, so as a data analyst, there are numerous jobs you can apply to, and there are so many of them. Okay, another person I remember at the top of my head is Oluwatosin Ogunleye. Oluwatosin joined our data analytics program, but he landed a job as a fraud analyst. Okay, so Oluwatosin joined us in August 2023, and just about 2 months after, he got a job as a fraud analyst with TSYS. Okay. And what he did for that company was to help them prevent credit card frauds by analyzing their fraudulent transactions, identifying how those fraudulent transactions happen, and recommend solutions on how to stop those fraudulent transactions. He moved from this role after 10 months and he got a job with BNP Paribas as a senior fraud detection investigator after completing what? Data analytics. Another amazing professional, Mawutin. Mawutin also moved to the UK. All right. He was an operations manager back in Nigeria. He joined our data analytics program, but guess his job title? His job title is pathology data analyst. Pathology data analyst. And these are examples to show you that because you've completed data analytics does not mean that the only type of job you can apply to is as a data analyst. Myself personally, I worked with Sahara Power Group, one of the largest privately owned energy conglomerates in sub-Saharan Africa. I was a data analyst, but my job title at a point was business data analyst. At another point, my job title was management information system analyst, MIS. Okay, as a data analyst at a point, my job title was MIS, management information systems analyst. And what's the role of the MIS? The role of the MIS is to ensure that the owners of the company, the directors, understand what is going on within that company from a data-driven perspective. So my day-to-day job was to ensure that I gathered data from all the companies within the group. We analyze the data, understand why we have a shortfall somewhere, understand why we are performing better in certain areas, and I come up with recommendations on what can happen better and what we need to change, what we need to stop doing, and so on. And I make my presentation to the owners of the company, the directors, the CEOs, the chiefs, and so on and so forth. That's still a data analyst role, but guess what? It is focused on helping the owners of the company understand what is going on in the business. Okay. It was an autonomous role. I had all the autonomy because I was reporting to the board. All right. So I had meetings with the CEOs, meetings with the chiefs, and so on, even though they were far above, looking at the ranks and so on. But because my role was to report to the board and show them from a non-biased perspective what was happening within their businesses, it was a data analyst role, but categorized as what? MIS, Management Information Systems. And that's the same way. For Mawutin, who got a job as a pathology data analyst, he's also a data analyst, but his focus is within the pathology units or the pathology departments. Same with Toyin. Toyin was a pharmacist back in Nigeria. Toyin wanted more. She joined our data analytics program. And just about a month after, she received an offer, also from the NHS, and she got sponsorship, but her job title was benefits analyst. We've looked at information analyst. We've looked at benefit analyst, which is Toyin. Toyin got a job as a benefit analyst. We've looked at fraud analyst, pathology data analyst, and so many other roles categorized under data analytics. So don't think that because I've completed data analytics, you're panicking. The only type of job I can get is as a data analyst. No, there are so many roles that are categorized because of their focus area. They're categorized as RQF level 6, and you still qualify for visa sponsorship with zero limitations. All right. And that's the pathway I would rather, you focus on for so many people who asked that question on Saturday. All right. If you go to, what's his name? Mawutin. You go to Mawutin's profile. That's Mawutin right there. His job role, even though he has listed it as data analyst, he works with the Southeast Hospital NHS Foundation Trust. His actual, because I completed his reference, the NHS reached out to us, reached out to me. I provided a reference, and Mawutin's job title in the job description is pathology data analyst. Okay. He worked as a support worker at some point. He joined our data analytics program, and that was what led him to land this job. Same with Toyin. Toyin, at a point, she's moved her job to a pharmacy. She got this job, I think, sometime around 7 months ago, and that was the announcement. I'm happy to share that I'm starting a new position as a pharmacy data analyst. Okay, so she got this first job as a benefits analyst before she even completed about a month. And you're going to listen to Toyin yourself, okay? Because she recorded a video talking about her experience. So you're going to listen to that. She got this job with one of the NHS Business Service Authority as a benefits analyst. And shortly after that, over a year, after she got this job, she got another job with one of the foundations, the Foundation Trust, as a pharmacy data analyst. So what you'd see usually across all these roles I've shared, none of them categorically states data analyst. And that takes us back to the job categorization. So remember, just like that HR professional, that person that studied HR can work in employee relations, compensation and benefits, payroll, recruitment, talent management, HR business partner, and so on. The data analyst can also work across multiple roles: the business intelligence analyst, the information analyst, the commercial analyst, and they all fall under the higher skilled category of RQF level 6 and above. Okay, I can see so many questions coming up. I'm going to take all those questions. I'll take all your questions. Make sure you fill the attendance. What about us with no experience? You don't need experience to qualify under any of the regulated qualifications framework. It's not based on experience. Ikmat had no experience. All the people I've shown you so far had zero experience. All right. It's all about what you'd be doing in that company. Okay. So, and all the things you need to learn in terms of experience, you gain that during the program itself. You learn in a project-based environment. I'll show you how Tosin was able to get into our data analytics program and get a job as a fraud analyst. How did he get that job? Because you would assume rightly that as a fraud analyst, you must have some level of experience to land that job. But how was he able to convince the interviewers that he was the best candidate for that job, even though he had never worked in the bank, he had never worked in the Department of Fraud and all of that? But how did he get that job? How did he gain the experience? You gain experience in two ways with us at Analytics. The first way is project-based learning. And the second way is through our internship. So all the programs have 2 months internship, and the 2 months internship gives you the opportunity to collaborate with other professionals, you solve a common problem together, and so on and so forth. Okay. Somebody talked about the Agile project manager. The Agile project managers are IT project managers. An Agile project manager is an IT project manager. Okay. So an IT project manager or an Agile project manager is a project manager that focuses on delivering projects within the technology ecosystem. So you have your Lloyd's banking application, for example. I have my Lloyd's Bank on my phone. You have your Revolut, you have your Starling Bank, all those apps you see. Somebody was responsible for managing the project from start till finish, because that's a technology product. Okay. And somebody needs to manage that project to ensure that that particular application is built, it meets the requirements of not just the organization, but the requirements of the users, the people that would use that particular tool. All right. So the project manager would manage projects like that. Okay. Projects that involves application, software, and so on, and websites and so on within the technology ecosystem. Okay, so you are an IT project manager. Okay, now I talked about Tosin, and I'm quickly just going to double down on that. How was Tosin, who joined us in our data analytics program? Let me go to Tosin's profile again. Tosin Ogunleye. How did he join a data analytics program and got a job as a fraud analyst? How possible is that? Or how did that even happen? And it's very simple. Or how did Mawutin, who was an operations manager in Nigeria, how did he get a job as a pathology data analyst that is healthcare related? This is the way they did it. And this is the way you would also do it. All right. So one of the things we do is to ensure that on day one on the job, you know exactly what to do. And the only way you can know what to do on day one, getting that job, is you doing that before. You haven't done that before. Okay. So you'd have worked on that type of project. You would have completed something similar. So when you see that in the real world, it's not strange to you. You'd have also done that during your internship. All right. So I'll take you to Tosin's class. So Tosin joined us in August 2023. So you'd see 23. At that time, we didn't call the program data analytics. We called it career skill incubator. Okay. So after 2023, we've had so many changes. Now it's called the data analytics program, right? So Tosin joined this particular class. And one of the case studies we solved in class when learning Microsoft Excel was a case study on fraudulent transactions. Okay, so if I click on this, you'd see what the case study is all about. It's a case study on fraudulent transactions in the bank. Okay, so you have the data dictionary, what the data is all about, the type of transactions, cash in, cash out, debit, payment, transfers, the amount, the origin, the name of the sender, where did that transaction emanate from? What was the old balance of that bank account, the new balance after the transaction, and so on and so forth. Okay. And at the end of the day, we understand why we need to solve this problem. The problem the company was facing, a lot of fraudulent transactions, and we solved that problem together in class. We solved the problem together in class. When you do this and you learn this way, what happens? You would know how to speak, how to answer questions during interviews, because that would not be the first time you would hear questions around fraudulent transactions. So this was the type of project that Tosin completed. And when he got an interview, we prepared him for that interview. We had a mock interview session and he was able to land the job as a fraud analyst. Tosin had no experience. For the person asking about experience, before he joined our data analytics program, he had studied a master's in public health. He moved to the UK for a master's in public health. He realized that I needed a little bit more to land the job and be competitive. He joined our data analytics program in August, and by October, he had landed his job, just less than 3 months after. He has moved from this role with TSYS to BNP Paribas as a senior fraud detection investigator. Okay, so you gain experience by working on real world projects that simulate the real world. So you see this case study that was completed, it wasn't designed from just thin air. It was based on experience, based on a real world experience, and that was what Tosin was able to complete. And for somebody like Mawutin, who was able to land a job as a pathology data analyst in healthcare, I'll show you what Mawutin's class looks like and the reason he was able to compete for that type of job and get that type of job. Okay, so I'd also show you the type of case studies. All right, the type of case studies Mawutin worked on. All right, so just like Tosin, who worked on fraudulent transactions, Mawutin also worked on what? Medical, healthcare related projects. St. Luke's Hospital. So St. Luke's Hospital, for example, have so many issues, problems with operational inefficiencies, problems with long wait times in the ER, and so on and so forth. So these are the type of problems you'd solve. You'd understand the rationale, and then you'd work on this particular project with a professional. You solve the problem together, and that gets you the experience of solving problems within healthcare or solving problems within the banking industry, within fraudulent transactions, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is what the class recording looks like, for example. So for anybody who joined that class, maybe you missed the class, you have the opportunity to always come back and watch the recording. So this is the live component of your program. You have a live class where you have a real facilitator, a real person working with you and training you on how to solve these problems. You solve them together. You can stop to ask questions. You can raise your hand and say, what you're doing is not very clear. I've tried it. I got something else. Can I share my screen? And you get real-time feedback. Okay, so that's how you learn and you work on different case studies, and that's how you gain experience. One of the ways you gain experience, and I'll show you the second way, which is through your internships. All right, so now that we know that there are so many roles that qualifies for the skilled worker visa, even though I have done data analytics, then you know that, then why am I worried or why am I bothering myself? It's very clear what I need to do. I'll tailor my application, and these are the things we show you how to do during your mentorship sessions and so on and so forth. Now, the second option that has limitations, okay, because there are two options. The first one we just covered has zero limitations. I can get a job as a BI analyst, BI developer, Power BI developer, database analyst, and so on. And I qualify under RQF level 6 skill level, and I meet the requirements. However, the TSL, which is a temporary shortage list, has limitations. Okay, so if you always apply for that data analyst, and you can see clearly that data analyst is now on the temporary shortage, then you have limitations of you can't bring independence and so on and so forth. And the TSL itself was introduced simply because of the high demand of those roles. And if you ask for my own personal opinion, I'll tell you clearly that I think there's going to be a reversal, but that's my personal opinion. Take it with a pinch of salt. All right. However, I think there's going to be a reversal because of the labor shortage in the UK, the talent shortage to fill those roles. Even though the job title categorized as data analyst are now under the temporary shortage, I think this will be reversed. All right, because you have a major shortage, major talent shortage within that space, and organizations are going to clamor to have those roles back into the eligible occupations for the skilled worker visa so that they can have more, competitive candidates apply to those jobs. That's my own thinking. Okay. So jobs on the TSL still qualifies for sponsorship, but you have limitations. For example, it is temporary. So the temporary shortage list itself is temporary, as the name implies. So by the end of 2026, the temporary shortage list might no longer be in existence. That is also based on the research by the Migration Advisory Committee and what they think at that particular point in time. Okay. Now, jobs on the temporary shortage list also does not come with clear settlement pathways or clear settlement rights. Do I do 5 years? Do I do 10 years? It's not very clear. And you can't also bring in your dependents. Very important. And of course, it is limited. It's going to expire end of 2026, like I said. And again, this is subject to review by the Migration Advisory Committee in when that time comes eventually. So the strategy to follow is very simple. And you have access to the temporary shortage list right here. You can just type on Google temporary shortage list UK and you'd have that come up. Or you can simply just click on this link and it will take you to the temporary shortage list, also updated on the 22nd of July. So it's the most updated. All right. Now, what you need to do is very straightforward. Act fast and act smart. Act fast and act smart. So know exactly what you're getting into. And like I said, and all the things we've discussed so far, it is pretty much straightforward what you have to do. All right. So you have, and I'm going to show you the reason why your data analytics skills qualifies you to all those jobs that you see that we've looked at, the BI role, Ikmat getting a job as a as an information analyst, Mawutin getting a job as a pathology data analyst, and so on and so forth. All right. New changes would come up. So what I always advise people is act fast. Don't wait. I know some people that were interested in doing this, but they waited and waited and waited. Now some changes are going against them. And I've always advised anybody I have the opportunity to advise, if you've gone to the UK for your master's, the moment you get into the university, that is when you need to start upskilling, preparing yourself for the job market. If you wait until you are done or a few months before you are done, you are under, higher pressure to ensure that you are able to land that job and the job comes with sponsorship. Ikmat got her job before she even wrapped up her master's program. So she moved from her master's straight into sponsorship. She didn't have to apply for the post-study visa. All right. Act smart in the sense that you're not going to be like the conventional everyday person that just applies to jobs randomly, which is something we teach you how to do. So you tailor your job applications, you tailor your job searches to those jobs that qualifies you for the skilled worker visa. As a data analyst, what do you learn? Okay. You start from problem solving, which is learning all the different techniques on how to solve a problem. Because as a data analyst, your job is not to build amazing dashboards or use Excel or use Power BI. Your job is to help that company solve problems. So you need to know how to get to the root cause of a problem, identify the root cause, get to the root using a technique like the 5 whys. You know how to break problems into multiple parts using the McKinsey-Misi model. You know how to approach data-related projects using the CRISP DM framework, and so on and so forth. You know the prioritization matrix. When you break your problem into multiple parts, what do I attack first? What problem do I start with? What do I start next? And so on and so forth. Then you learn how to use Excel for data analytics. You learn SQL, Power BI, Tableau, data storytelling, ChatGPT for analytics. That's the AI component. And then you learn Microsoft Fabric. These are all the technologies you'd learn as a data analyst. Now, let's take that very first role as a business intelligence analyst. As a BI analyst, what do I need to learn to get a job in BI? Business intelligence analyst. I only need to learn, I need to know Excel. I need to know SQL. I need to know either Power BI or Tableau, one of the two. Okay, usually it's Power BI because when you look at the categorization of BI tools, Power BI always comes up as number one, in the BI magic quadrant. Okay, so you need to learn Power BI, and that's pretty much it. The business intelligence analyst must have good understanding of Power BI as a business intelligence tool, must understand SQL, where you would learn data warehousing techniques, ETL, and so on and so forth. And then you need to know data analysis using Excel. These are the three major tools and technologies you need to become a business intelligence analyst. Excel for data analytics, SQL for your data warehousing, your ETL, and so on. Your ETL simply means extract, transform, and load. And then you learn Power BI for your data visualization. These are the three major tools and technologies you need to become a BI analyst. And guess what? You're going to learn everything under data analytics and even more. As a data analyst, you're also going to learn Tableau. You'd learn storytelling. You'd learn Microsoft Fabric. And this is easily the reason why, as a data analyst, you can get a job as a BI analyst. As a Power BI developer, what do I need to learn? Two technologies: SQL, structured query language for your data warehousing, your databases, and then you learn Power BI. Only that this time around, your focus within that company would largely be around Power BI. So you do more advanced work with Power BI compared to the conventional data analyst. So in your Power Query in Power BI, you'd write the M language. You'd write advanced DAX expressions and so on and so forth. While the data analyst has been clearly categorized under the temporary shortage list, the BI analyst qualifies for the skilled worker visa, and the Power BI developer also qualifies for the skilled worker visa. And we've seen that list already. So these are the tools and technologies you'd learn. And what would your learning journey look like? 6 months learning, 6 months learning in class, and 2 months internship. You'd learn for 6 months. So this is not you become a data analyst in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. No, you learn for 6 months, learning the tools, learning the technologies, working on projects, working on case studies, and getting grounded in all the skills and all the tools. And then you join an internship for 2 months where you get to work with a cross-functional team and solve problems that would simulate the real world for you. Okay. And on Saturdays, you have your live classes. So every other day, and I'll show you the platform, the learning management system. But on Saturdays is when you have the live class. So for those in the UK, for those in Europe, and so on, you have a class 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. every Saturday. And for those in Canada, North America, in the US, for example, you have your classes from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., your live class, where you have a live professional solving problems and working on case studies with you. Okay, so all you have to do is look for the time zone that fits your particular region. If you're in Nigeria, for example, you're going to be in the class for those in the UK because you have similar time zones. If you're in Europe, you're in Germany, Poland, similar time zones with the UK, you join the class for those in the UK. And one other advantage you have for those in the UK is if you're not available in the morning on a Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., you can join the class for those in the US, in North America, which would fall around 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. your time. So you have that flexibility. Apart from Saturdays, every other day, you have the opportunity to join the learning management system, the LMS. So the LMS is where you have the opportunity to learn at your own pace. All you have to do, go to the program you've registered for, cybersecurity, data analytics, business analysis, and just simply click on continue learning. Okay, so this takes you to your live classes. All right, you can click on anything, case study, data modeling. You get to watch your videos and practice along. You can do this any day, anytime, anywhere. And as you solve this outside the live class, you join a live class on Saturdays, you interact with your facilitator, you solve problems together, and so on and so forth. And that's how you learn. Okay, so your learning journey across all the programs for 6 months, you learn, and you have 2 months internship with Amdari. Your internship with Amdari is a sister company to Tenalytics, registered in London in the UK, operates out of London in the UK, operates out of Alberta in Canada. And this gives you the opportunity to list both experiences as what? Your real world experience. When we went to Ikmat's profile, you saw she indicated that data analyst. All the profiles you'd go to, you'd see that there, data analyst with analytics and so on and so forth. And that's what gives your potential employer the confidence that if you're on the job, you've done this before, then they're confident enough to know that you can do it for them. Okay, so 6 months learning, 2 months internship. And for those asking, how can I start today? And I'm going to start taking questions afterwards. Our next cohort is on the 6th on the 9th of August, I beg your pardon. This coming Saturday, the August cohort would commence. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I know so many people. They have waited since January to start. Since January, they didn't start January, February, March, and they're just about to start in August. Right? So it's always best to act fast and also act smart. For those that started in February, they'll be starting their internship this Saturday, 9th of August. So February, they've completed their 6 months and they're about to commence their internship. So it's always fantastic that you act fast, act smart, get started as soon as you can, gain the skills you need, and you start to apply to jobs. The brilliant and the most important thing that gives you an advantage is, as a data analyst, for example, we looked at what you need to work as a business intelligence analyst. If what I need to work as a business intelligence analyst is simply Excel, SQL, Power BI, it means I don't need to wait until I complete the program to land a job. And that's how so many people land jobs. You hear that I mentioned, oh, she got a job 2 months after joining, 3 months after joining, 1 month before she completed her program. This is how they did it. Most organizations will not require that you have all the skills from A to Z. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, it's good enough for you to apply. We show you how to apply. You start to have your interviews. And when you have interviews, what happens? All you have to do is go to your LMS, book an interview preparation, click on schedule appointments, select the program, enter the link to the job, select your interview stage, first level, second level, final level, select that, upload your CV, the CV you used to apply, select the dates you want to be prepared for that interview, and somebody would walk you through, have a mock interview prep with you, and that gets you into the room and you know exactly what to say to land that job. All right. So how do you start? How can I start today if I want to start? I want to join the August cohort commencing on the 9th of August for all of the programs, any of the programs that we offer. We have the discount, I think, is ending today or tomorrow. Okay, it was meant to end yesterday, but we extended because of all the questions people had around, oh, what do I do? This is not the temporary shortage. Can I still land sponsorship? And that's the reason why we held this session today. All right. So rather than paying the full amount of $900, you have the opportunity to get a 20% off. So for those that joined on Saturday, you already know this already. Okay, so you have a 20% off where you get to pay just $750 to start. And the most important thing is when you take advantage of the discount, you also have the opportunity to pay in 5 monthly installments. So you make your first payment in August, the next comes in September. So when you make your first payment, that gets you into the class on Saturday. You start on Saturday. September, you make your second payment, October, the third payment, and so on until you complete your 5 installments. Okay. So you select any of the programs you're interested in: business analysis, data science, data engineering, and so on and so forth. And I'll just show you what happens and how to take advantage of the discount. So if you click on this link, which my colleagues would also share, it takes you into the enrollment center. So here you can see the number of slots still available for discounts. All right. So I can simply come in here, select any of the programs I'm interested in. I'm interested in data analytics. I want to land a job as a BI analyst. I want to land a job as an information analyst. I'll click on register for DA and it takes me to the payment center. So we have 17 slots available for the discount. You can make payments in any currency. I can pay in US dollars, select USD, and I'll see the equivalence in dollars. I'll pay $150 per month for 5 months. Okay. And if you're making a one-time payment, you have an additional $50 discount, or you're making a 2 monthly payment. Okay. However, if I'm making 5 months, my 5 monthly payments, I'll pay $150 for the next 5 months. But the first payment of $150 gets me into the class on Saturday. Okay. I want to pay in pounds. So I select pounds and I'll pay £123 to start on Saturday. In September, I make my second payment, October, the third payment, and so on. So if I select 5 monthly payments and I click on secure seat, you'd see your first payment comes in today. Take advantage of the discounts. You get in today, next in September, the next in October, the next in November, and the final payment in December. All right. You click on proceed, enter your first name, your full name, enter your email. All right. And then you enter your credit card details, your debit card details, and then you proceed to make your first installment. And the moment you complete your payments, what happens? You get an automated confirmation to show that you've completed payment and you are redirected to a registration form. Okay. I promised I was going to play a video. I'm not sure I did, of Toyin, who was a pharmacist. She got a job as a benefits analyst. Now she's a pharmacy data analyst with the NHS on sponsorship. All right. So I'm going to click on this link. We're going to listen to Toyin. All right. And there's so many other professionals, but I'll show you where you can listen to all those amazing professionals, from the one on my slide to the ones on YouTube. Okay. Because of time, I'm not going to play too many videos for you, but I want you to listen to Toyin very quickly. Toyin got her job offer just 1 month after she joined our data analytics program. And the reason why that happened was the explanation I gave earlier. The job required her to use only Excel. And 1 month after she joined, she had completed her problem solving and Excel. So we encouraged her to apply. She applied. We prepared her for the interview, and eventually she landed that job. Okay, so let's listen to Tony very quickly. I'll come back, take questions, and then we end in the next 10 minutes. So sit back, relax, enjoy Tony.
Hello everyone, my name is Doreen and I recently got a job as a benefits analyst in the UK. I've come from a medical background as a pharmacist who is interested in, breaking into tech. My first encounter with analytics was on LinkedIn. I joined one of their masterclass, just one masterclass where a Femina spoke, and it just took that masterclass to convince me. I joined in August, and a month after, I got a job. To be honest with you, every information skill that I was able to apply to get that job, I owe it to Tenalytics. Tenalytics did a great job and is still doing a great job. They groom you and nurture you from the cradle till you become confident. So my advice for you, most importantly, is join. Be integrated into a platform that empowers you and allows you to easily get that first job.
That's Tony, absolutely phenomenal lady. All right, but I'm going to take a breather right now. We'll take questions over the next 10 minutes and then we call it a day. All right. So if you have questions, you can drop it in the chat. If you want to unmute and speak, please feel free. You can raise your hand. I'll call you up, but I'll check from the charts to get questions. James is asking, please still extend. So James, the reason why it's difficult to extend is you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you make payments at on the nick of time, or when it's almost, the program is almost starting. Now, you have some tools to download and install. Okay. So when you make payments, one of the first things you'll get is you'll get a welcome kit. You get access to your dashboard. Now, if you go to your dashboard and you go to your program, say you registered for cybersecurity or you registered for data analytics, and you go to your dashboard, all right? Under introduction, one of the first things you'd see is what? Tools and software installation. So we want you to complete this. We show you how to download and install Excel, how to download and install Power BI on Mac, on Windows, how to download and install PostgreSQL, and so on and so forth. Okay, you look at your learning structure and your learning roadmap. You look at all these things. You read about your facilitator. You read about all the different stages of data analytics. So if you start late, you would rush to do those things, which I would not want for you. All right. So that's what I would advise you to do. Let me see. We have more questions. What's the difference between cybersecurity? They're totally different. Cybersecurity and data analytics. But let me try to explain for the person that asked. All right. Let me look for, yes, let's use this blank page to explain. As a data analyst, what do you do? Okay. So let's say, for example, everybody knows Netflix. One way or the other, it's either you're subscribed to Netflix or you use your brother or your sister's account to watch Netflix. All right. Now we are in August. The first half of the year is gone. Netflix wants to know how many new subscribers have we gotten for the first half of 2025. How many new subscribers have we gotten for the first half of 2025? Okay. Now that data is somewhere in a database because they have a database of all their customers. So this is the database. Let's call this the DB database. The data analyst would access this database using his or her SQL skills, SQL. So SQL, structured query language, or SQL, is the tool or language you use to interact with databases wherever the data is stored. So before you analyze data, before you work with that data using Excel or Power BI or any other tool, you need to get that data first. Okay, so the data analyst would access that database because they want to answer the question for the CEO to know the number of new subscribers we've gotten for the first half of 2025. After getting the data analyst would then analyze that data using, let's say, Excel and come up with something like this. So in January, February, March, April, May, and June. The data analyst would visualize. So let's say in January, we had 500 new subscribers. February, we had 600 subscribers. March, we had 300. April, we had 350. May, we had 3,000. And June, we had 4,000. Okay, so let's say this is what the data looks like. This is only possible because the data analyst has extracted the data from that database and they have analyzed that data using Microsoft Excel to show that in January we had 500, in February we had 600, in March we had 300, April we had 350, May we had 3,000, and June we had 4,000. For anybody who sees this particular chart from January to June, what will be your question? Because this is what happened in the business in terms of the number of new subscribers that we got across each month from January to June. But when you look at this, the data from January to June, you must have a question for the data analyst. And what's that question you would have for the data analyst? Just type into the chat if you know what that question is. And just guess. You don't have to get it right. Okay, just type into the chat. Looking at this, what question would you have for the data analyst? So in January, we had 500. In February, we had 600. In March, we had 300. April, we had 350. What happened in March and April? Mark, fantastic. Solomon is asking, why is there no many subscribers towards the beginning, towards the end, than at the beginning? Absolutely brilliant. Solomon, how can we improve subscription in March and April? Fantastic, Oludayo. Onwamaka is asking, what happened in May and June? So as a data analyst, you help the company answer questions. So the first question was, we want to know how many subscribers we have for the first half of the year. I've gotten the data, I've analyzed it, and now I'm showing you. The data analyst would then go to answer the second question, which is, why did it happen? So the first question the data analyst would answer is, what happened? What happened is the first question, which is what we can see. This is what happened in January, what happened in February, what happened in March in terms of the number of subscribers. But why did we have a shortfall in March and April? You have asked those questions. So it's now the role of the data analyst to go back, look at trends and patterns within the data, look at events that occurred in March and April to identify the reason why we have low performance in March and April. The data analyst would also look at May and June, go into the data, look for trends and patterns to identify why did we have an increase, a substantial increase in May and June. Because if we know why we did very well in May and June, we can use the same strategies and keep on improving all through the year. And if we know what we didn't do well in March and April, we can stop doing those things and change strategies. That's the role of the data analyst. The data analyst answers two questions in any company. The first question is, what happened? And the second question is, why did it happen? But you don't answer this question based on what you think. You answer these questions from a data-driven perspective. You get the data from that database. You analyze the data using Excel, Power BI, Tableau, and any of those tools, and you come up with recommendations based on your findings. In March and April, we did not have new releases of TV shows and movies because there was a delay in the movie production. Maybe that was what led to the drop in March and April. And in May and June, where you had a substantial increase, maybe you released new movies with a popular actor or whatever the case is, but every business would have their own specific questions that they want to answer from a data-driven perspective. So what happened and why did it happen? That's what the data analyst would answer in any company using what? Data. A cybersecurity professional, on the other hand, has no business analyzing data, has no business answering these questions. The cybersecurity's role is to, you see that database that the data analyst would get their data from. The role of the cybersecurity is to what? Protect that data, protect the systems, and protect the network in that organization, right? So as a cybersecurity professional, you are protecting the database, ensuring that those that don't need to have access to that database does not get access. You are protecting the systems from hackers, external threats, internal threats. You are protecting the network as well. So that's the role of the cybersecurity professional. So you come up with a governance framework as a GRC professional to ensure that when a new staff or a new employee is hired, there must be a framework that clearly explains how that staff can access the database. So who is the owner of the database? What is the approval process to give anybody access to that database? The cybersecurity professional comes up with that governance framework. But in summary, why are you doing that? You are doing that to protect the database, protect the data, protect the network, protect the system of any organization. All right. So when you try to make a transaction, Apple tried to, I registered recently for Duolingo and I paid about, I think, $300. But the transaction was flagged. Immediately that transaction tried to happen, it was flagged by my, debit card, and the transaction did not go. I received a phone call immediately. Did you just try to execute a transaction of 300 and something dollars from the Apple store, blah, blah, blah? And I said, yes. They sent me a text message and said, type 1 if you're aware of this transaction, or type 0 if you're not aware of the transaction. And I typed 1. And immediately I was told I could go back and execute that transaction. There is somebody at the back end that is protecting my account to ensure that if I'm going to pay this amount on Apple Store, they want to be sure that it is a valid transaction. That's the role of the cybersecurity professional. All right. So there are two different roles. The data analyst would answer the question of what happened, why it happened, using data and giving recommendations. Okay, how many new customers did we have? We at Analytics, we use data all the time. We know where our customers come from. We know the programs customers register for. We know the number of male, the distribution of male and female that join our programs, and so on and so forth. We always do that analysis every single time because we have an in-house data analyst that focuses on that. Every business wants to know, why are we doing well? Why are we not doing well from a data-driven perspective? The cybersecurity professional would help you protect your digital systems, your network, and so on and so forth. Okay. I'm not sure I understand this, your question, iPhone. Do you think they would offer sponsorship, especially as I see most people who were offered sponsorship before, which was under the old threshold? You think they would be willing to sponsor under the new? It's not what I think, is what has been published. Okay, it's not what I think, iPhone, is what has been published. It's out there. And that's why I said everything I'm showing you today is not my own opinion. All right. It's simply what the white paper, the proposition of the white paper, the proposals, what has been implemented so far. and what is still outstanding, and how you can navigate the space to ensure that you get the opportunities still available. All right. But again, what I'll tell you for free is if I have anybody, my brother, my sister, who I want to advise, we've been giving this advice even before the new changes. When applying to jobs, you don't just go for data engineer. I want to get a job as a data engineer. No, there are so many roles under data engineering. And let me give you an example of that as well. Somebody who recently got sponsorship this year. His name is Gad. Gad joined our data engineering program. So ideally, he should only apply to data engineering roles, right? So he completed data engineering with us, but he wasn't applying to data engineering roles. He got a job with the NHS, which came with sponsorship as a data warehouse and ETL developer. Data warehouse and ETL developer. That's the job title. But guess what? Data warehouse and ETL developer is under data engineering. The same way business intelligence analyst is under data analytics. And there are so many roles like this. So you're not likely just going to see data engineer, data engineer, data engineer as the only type of jobs you can get. Okay. So data warehouse, ETL developer is also under data engineering. And this came with sponsorship. Okay. Got this in January 2025. He's currently on that role. Will you help us with the roles to apply? No, we don't apply. We don't apply for you. You apply to those jobs yourself. But what we do is this, and I'm going to show you how we ensure that you know where to apply and how to apply. Now, one of the things we know is when you apply on Indeed, you apply on CV Library, you apply on read.co.uk, NHS jobs, and so on. You're applying to jobs that everybody else has access to. So we subscribe to job boards that are paid. A lot of people don't pay for job boards. So we pay to those job boards and we make those jobs available to you. All right. So if you go into your classroom under your important materials, one of the first things you'd see is you upload your CV. We work on your CV for you, and then we show you how to tailor your CV so that when you're applying to jobs, you don't apply randomly, easy apply. You take one CV, apply to 100 jobs. No, you know how to tailor your CV to specific jobs. All right. Then we scrape data from the job boards that have subscription and that are paid job boards. We scrape data and we send them to you. We scrape those jobs and send to you. So this is data analytics, for example. You see the jobs that come with sponsorship. Yes, 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 yes. They have sponsorship. We send them to you every single week. Okay, you're in the US, you're in Canada, you're in the UK, you're in Nigeria. These are jobs that come with sponsorship. And these are jobs that you'd not easily find on any other platform. But one of the platforms we use most of the time to get all these visa sponsored jobs is UK visa jobs. So UK visa jobs, for example, is a paid job board. You have access to, I think, your first 3 jobs you apply to. After that, you have to pay. So we pay. We go to the jobs, we scrape the jobs, and we send them to you. So you don't have to pay for it. So this is apply for students, graduates, and experienced higher jobs with visa sponsorship. So if you click on jobs, for example, we search for business analyst. Okay, analyst. Okay, so what we do is out of these 59 roles available for visa sponsorship for the business analyst role, we scrape these jobs. We go to the website like this, click on this, for example, go to the website, we get the link to the job, and then we send them to you. So you go ahead and apply, and you don't have to make payments. So that's how we ensure that we make the job application process easy and straightforward. All right. And when you have an interview, all you have to do is come to your dashboard, book your interview prep session, and somebody gets to prep you for your interview. And you also have your mentorship sessions, how to navigate the job market, your LinkedIn optimization, interview simulation, and so on and so forth. How to succeed as a tech professional globally. Okay, so that's how we ensure that you get the right jobs. Let me check for more questions. What about project planning or project management? Can someone get this job straight from Nigeria? It's a bit more difficult to get sponsorship directly from Nigeria. I'll tell you for free, especially if you're looking to go to the UK. All right. It's more difficult now after all these new changes. However, if you want to get a job working remotely from Nigeria, it's a lot easier for you to go that route compared to trying to get sponsorship from Nigeria. As someone doing a master's in artificial intelligence and wanting to be a part of healthcare innovations and technological advancement, what course do you recommend? I'd recommend data science, Laurel. I'd recommend the data science program, the full stack data science program. Okay. So look for data science, select the full stack data science program. That's where you get the best value for what you want to achieve. You're already doing AI. AI, you can get AI from data science, machine learning, and so on and so forth. Okay. Data science is the overarching job category. And then you have subsets. AI is one of them, machine learning engineer. Um, you have the ETL developer, ETL engineer as well, the NLP developer, and so on and so forth. These are different job roles that you can find under data science. Okay. And I would advise that you go for data science. Let me see. In these roles you have mentioned, does one have to earn up to 41,000 benchmark? Yes, you have to. For you to qualify, the salary you must have an offer of the minimum of 41,700. And this is an increase from 38,007. So they increase it by 3,000 per annum. Okay. Let me see. After 8 months of training, will they automatically accept you? There's nothing that is automatic in terms of the job. The job, applying to jobs itself is a job. Okay, so we show you how to apply, where to apply, how to tailor your CV, and how to do all the right things to ensure that your chances of getting an interview is increased. Okay, I think, okay. Moturaya wants me to talk about the full stack data science, even though this session was mainly around um, talking about how to navigate some of the changes that has happened. But Moturaya, let me quickly answer this question. All right. So we said the data analyst answers two questions, which is what happened and why did it happen? The data scientist, on the other hand, adds a third question, number three, which is what will happen. Okay. So all these questions I've listed, they are categorized under the data analytics value chain. For example, when you answer the question, what happened? This is under descriptive. You are carrying out something called descriptive analytics. Okay. When you answer the question, why did it happen? You are diving deeper into the data to look for patterns, evidence, trends, and so on that can explain the reason why we had a shortfall or the reason why we had a substantial increase. You are getting into the aspect of diagnostic analytics. Diagnostic. The data scientists would take it a step further to answer question number three, which is what will happen, which is categorized as what? Predictive analytics. So the data scientist focuses on predicting the future. So you can tell what will happen in the future based on what has happened in the past. Okay, that's the difference. If you look at the data analyst and the data scientist, is this question number 3. The data scientist takes it a step further to answer what will happen. So we saw a chart that looks like this from, let me just make this better. So we saw a chart that looks like this. All right. January, we said 500. February, we had something around, say, 600. March, okay, March was lower. Okay, so let's say March we had 300. Okay, April we had 350. May we had, let's say, I think it was 3,000 or thereabout. June, say we had 3,005. That was what happened. This is what happened. Question number 1, what happened? Descriptive analytics. You are describing your data. January to June, you are describing what happened. Why did it happen? Diagnostic. You are diagnosing. You are getting deeper into the data to find out, why did we have a shortfall in March and April? Why did we have a substantial rise in May and June? The data scientist now takes it over from here, okay, and answers question number 3. What will happen in the future? So now that we've seen what has happened from January to June, I want to know what is likely going to happen in July, August, September, till when? Till December, into the future. And for you to predict what will happen in the future, you must understand statistical modeling. Statistical modeling. You must understand machine learning, and so on. Okay. Now, for you to understand this, you have to add these skills to your skills as a data analyst. So if you're a data analyst, for example, you're going to learn Excel, Power BI, we saw all those things. As a data scientist, you would start with statistics. You must add statistics to your skills and your knowledge, because machine learning, predictive analytics are hinged around statistics. You would learn how to use Python to do what? Carry out exploratory data analysis. You'd learn how to use, and let me show you the key learning areas, but I'm just explaining so you have an understanding of why the data scientist role is even important and what do they do. Okay, so they predict the future based on what has happened in the past. Netflix can recommend the type of movies you would like to watch based on the type of movies you have seen in the past. They build a recommender system, which is built using a machine learning algorithm that can predict that, oh, because Moturayo has watched this type of show, this type of movie, she would definitely like to watch this other type of shows. So they build a recommender system to predict the future even before that future happens. All right. So let me take you to the key learning area for the data scientist, and then we call it a day from there. Okay. Let me see. I think I have it here on my slide somewhere. Yes. All right. So as a data scientist, you'd start with what? Statistics. This is our data science program, the full stack data science. You'd learn statistics, you'd learn Excel, but the Excel you'd learn is Excel for what? Forecasting and predictive analytics. So you'd learn how to use Excel to build a linear regression model. Okay, what happens when this happens? All right. Does salary increase when age increases? Does salary decrease if the age of the employee decreases? And so on and so forth. Okay, so you learn how to use Excel to build a linear regression model, exponential smoothing, and different other type of forecasting techniques. You'd learn Tableau, you'd learn SQL, just like the data analyst, but then you'd learn how to use Python. Okay, Python for your exploratory data analysis, machine learning, computer vision. You'd learn version control with GitHub, GitHub Copilot, and ChatGPT for AI as a data scientist. And you'd also get to learn Microsoft Fabric. The duration for all the programs are the same, 6 months learning, 2 months internship. All right. And the data scientist, because of its seemingly level of advancement compared to the data analyst, you earn higher salary. Okay. So as a data scientist, your average is about £55,000 per annum, 10,000 more than the data analyst. Okay. But always remember, as a data scientist, your role is to predict what will happen. And why is it important to know what will happen? It's absolutely important. Okay. So if a company like Amazon knows that whenever we do Black Friday, we always get, let's say, $21 billion worth of goods sold. And for us to deliver the packages to our customers, we need to recruit within that period where we have Black Friday sales or any other discount sales. We need to recruit about 10,000 new employees. Now, if Amazon cannot predict what will happen in the future, the number of resources they need to have to deliver on the services to their customers, then they'll find themselves in deep waters. They'll find themselves in problems. So companies, organizations always want to know what will happen in the future. What could happen if this changes, and so on and so forth. So if in the last 5 years, every November, whenever there's a Black Friday, whenever there's a discount, whenever there is this or that, we usually have X number of sales. How can we prepare for that future? That's the role of the data scientist. You predict what will happen based on historical data of what has happened in the past. And you do that and predict that using different machine learning algorithms. Okay. And I hope I answered that your question, Muturayo. And these are the tools and technologies you would need to learn. Okay. So I'm going to call it a day. I always advise for those of you who have questions after this session, always ensure that while you've registered, you've secured your slots, you've made the first payment, fill in the registration form, select the option, I need to speak to a professional. Join the clarity session. It's a clarity session where you have the opportunity to ask questions. Oh, I studied this, or I'm a travel nurse, I'm a travel consultant. I want to know what program is best for me. All right. And if you want to see other professionals that have done what you are trying to do, all some of the questions you're asking, okay, go to YouTube, search for Tenalytics on YouTube. Okay, go to YouTube, search for Tenalytics, click on the logo, make sure you subscribe so you always get amazing content from us. And go to playlist. Go to the playlist. When you go to playlist, you would see where you have alumni job success stories. Click on that, and
there's a problem, to excel, in
it takes you to the job success stories, and you'd see numerous success stories. Okay, for this lady speaking, for example, Bukola was in HR back in Nigeria. She moved to the US. She joined our business analysis program, and we helped her get a job as a HR business analyst. So she took her HR experience from Nigeria, and we added business analysis to that. And she got a job as a HR business analyst. Okay. You have somebody like, I think this is Chuku Ebuka, if I'm correct. Chuku Ebuka got a
I'm
job.
truly excited to share my experience.
He got a job in cybersecurity even before completing his program with us. Chukwuebuka is in Ireland, and he got that job this year, sometime this year. Okay, you have so many amazing professionals. You have Linda, you have Salami, you have Zainab who left her banking job and she got a job as a data manager after completing our data analytics program. You have Judith, who was a carer, joined our business analysis program, got a job in business analysis, okay? And so many other professionals. Amaka is in Canada, Saskatchewan, joined our HR analytics program and landed a job as a HR data analyst, okay? So let's listen to Amaka. And this is to show you where you have access to so many amazing testimonials that would give you that inspiration and that push to also get your journey started. Amaka was out of work for 6 months before she came to us. Let's listen to Amaka.
Hello everyone, my name is Amaka Naji and I would like to share with you how Analytics gave me the confidence to apply for a high-paying job. So last year, 2024, I came across Analytics advert on Instagram. At first I was skeptical. I was like, things we see on Instagram. But I just said, okay, I had always wanted to upskill, like learn something else as an HR professional, and the analytical aspect has been on my mind. So like, okay, before I pay, let me join the WhatsApp group and hear what they have to say. So I joined the WhatsApp group and I was like, okay, this is something I want to do. This is something I want to put my money in here. And I paid for the class. Just the first class alone, thank God I did this. And as the class progressed, I was really happy. I removed all doubts. So last year, December, I saw a job posting. And if I had seen that job posting before I started this class, I don't think I would have had the courage or the confidence to apply for the role. But I did because of all what I've learned from Analytics. So I applied for the role. Some weeks later, I was called for an interview. I reached out to my facilitator, so I told her I have an interview, like, please, what do I need to do? And she was like, don't worry, we got you. And they really did, because they prepared me for an interview. They went out of their way. Like, I was sent a 12-page document on what to do. We had a Zoom meeting. They took this interview like a major project. They really went out of their way, prepared with me, tutored me and all of that. And I went for the interview and I got the job. So I want to tell you that if you're still skeptical, if you're still thinking you might not gain anything, trust me, you have a lot to gain. And take it as a gift to yourself this 2025. Like, I want to do something for my career and I want you to pay for this class. I want you to go for this class and you will be thankful. Your career would thank you for doing this thing. So guys, thank you.
International Women's Month.
Okay, so that's Amaka Naji. Fantastic lady. Got a job with Sask Energy in Saskatchewan, Canada. All right. So we're going to call it a day at this point, and I want to say a big thank you to everyone who stayed from the beginning up until this moment. If you had questions that we didn't answer, make sure you join the clarity session, book a clarity session, and have conversations with our career coaches. More importantly, take advantage of the discounts. I've never been confused. All the career paths are in high demand, and it's always it can get confusing. Which one should I do? I was also there at some point. I didn't know if I should study software development. I didn't know if I should go for data analytics or whatever, but I started with data analytics and I had myself to thank for that, making that decision. Okay. And if you have any questions, you are confused, it's never a problem. Just make sure you book a clarity session and we will help you answer your specific direct questions that you might have. Okay, all are the same for any gender. If you notice, a lot of women are breaking bounds and landing jobs, from Ikmat to Toyin to Judith, and so many amazing women getting into the tech ecosystem. So have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I want to see you, walk with you to help you get your journey into the tech ecosystem started on the 9th, on Saturday, August 2025. Cheers, everyone. And thanks for joining us today.